evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely possible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to PSGL. Welcome to PCF3, and welcome to round 3 at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps located in Belgium. I'll be your host for tonight, and my name is Mitskay, and as you can probably see in our overlay already, I will be solo coming, at least for the start of the evening. Joseph will hopefully be joining us later on, and then we'll be making it a duo com. So I'll be taking you through all the things here tonight, but before we're going to head into the qualifying session, let's take a quick look at the results last week, and with that, of course, the championship standings. I'll quickly take you through the results, and then I'll show the standings on screen for you. So last week out, it was Lucas Beisner getting pole position with a 1:35.39 in China, 15 thousandths quicker than Toppy. Lucas went on to win that race as well, picking up 17 points ahead of Giovanni Kennis in P2, and Cloud, who started on P8, finishing in 3rd place. Rounding off your top 5 were Toppy, who started in 2nd but came home in 4th, and Oliver Nutt gained 1 place, finishing in 5th. 6.6 seconds behind the leader. Now that gives us the following standing. Your championship leader, your new championship leader, is Lucas Beisner. He is leading the pack 8 points ahead of Rafael Kuntz with 17 points. Did not finish last week out, despite having the fastest lap. Giovanni Kennis now 2nd, shared with Redmers. They're both on 12 points, 11 points for Cloud. 2 races that he finished, 1 podium for him. Wojtek Steg coming in 6th place with 10 points, sharing that with Diego Ferrer, but of course taking 6th spot for having a podium result. And after that in 8th, it's Toppe ahead of Galindo, Knott, and then we also see Labella and Langrock on 5 points each, 11th and 12th. Now, in the meantime, let's take a quick look if we are already heading into the game. It looks like we are not yet, even though everyone is in the lobby, so I'll keep you posted on that in a moment. We do have a couple of stand-ins tonight. There were, let's see, a couple of drivers that were not able to make it. 5 drivers, to be precise. Scott Holmes is not able to make it. Same goes for Max van der Geest, Jeremy Gallanet, Drax, Wojtek Steg, and one of the reserve drivers, Ryan Grob. But those are the main drivers that couldn't make it, and in for them are, let's have a look. David Martinez will be in the Cadillac. We'll have Valentino Labella in the V-Carb. We have Carlos Galindo in the Mercedes and Noah Raza in the Haas, making for a 21 driver grid if I count everything correctly. Let's see, I think we will be starting in a moment now. So getting a little bit more information. It looks like voice chat has been suspended. We're just waiting for one more driver, and that is Diego Ferrer, but he says he will join in as we go in the qualifying session. So Oliver Nutt will give the heads off to start off with the race, well, with the qualifying session at least tonight, and get the lobby underway. So we are in Spa-Francorchamps, as already mentioned, round 3 of the season. The last round before our break week. Next week there won't be a race. Before in 2 weeks we will be heading to a first ever race in Madrid at the Madring, and I'm very excited to see that race pan out. But that's in 2 weeks. Tonight we are at Spa, the longest track here on the calendar, with 7 kilometers and 4 meters to be exact. And it is going to be quite the epic one. It is, of course, such an iconic track. I keep repeating that with a lot of tracks, but Spa really is one, with La Source, Eau Rouge and Radignan, the Camel Straight, Pouhon, Stavelot, Le Fagne, and of course the bus stop chicane. A lot of famous corners that you have here. Now I see that all the drivers are readying up, so we'll be getting started with our qualifying session. Going to see 3 runs from most of our drivers, making sure, of course, that they can keep it all on track so that they don't get any invalidations that will surely hurt their chances setting an amount of laps on the board. And in the meantime, in the chat, let us know what you think the pole lap time is going to be. I'm not exactly sure around what time we'll be heading out on. I did not see the drivers post about any personal best, so hopefully we'll be getting some pointers along we go, of course, as the laps are going to come in. I see that the drivers in the meantime are heading into the qualifying session. We're currently loading in, so I'll be switching overlays for that as well and take you to the race screen. So there we go then, all loading in, as you can see on the right hand side. And then we will kickstart this 18-minute short qualifying session, the 3rd of the season, season 43 here. And as I mentioned, Lucas Beisner currently leading that championship. And a fun fact about the season so far is that the driver that has taken pole position has also gone on to win the race. It was Rafael Kunz in the first race, and last week out in China, it was Lucas Beisner taking pole and taking the race win after that. So definitely something to keep a lookout for. As you can see, we have 20 drivers. Diego Ferrer will be joining us in a moment, so we'll have 21 drivers out here tonight. On the right side, you can see your purple lines. Those are the fast zone modes, so where you can open the rear wing. There's one at the Camel Straight, one is after Speaker's Corner, just ahead of Pujon. And there is another one heading up to the bus stop chicane, and of course one at the start-finish straight heading towards Le Source hairpin. That looks like one of the Cadillacs is the first one out. That is David Martinez from the VLS team. And he'll be driving up that long Cadillac straight. You see the straight line mode marker there just outside the track. And he's just gearing up and getting that car ready for his first run. He will be setting that banker here tonight, of which we'll be able to get some pointers to see how fast we're really going to go tonight. But of course, the first lap is not going to be the fastest lap that we are going to see. Meantime, I also see Lawrence Lauers, the Ferrari man currently shown as P1. He made quite a strong appearance before, hasn't really materialized with that, mostly qualifying sessions and race pace showing he's had good pace. But in the first race in Silverstone, it did not come to fruition, sadly. Lucas Beisner is someone, on the other hand, who definitely showed for it. A 4th place in Silverstone, and then pole position and race win in China, leading the championship as a result. Top 8 also putting up some solid results. 4th place last week out. Giovanni Canis in the Alpine, 2nd last week round, also in that championship fight. And also Rafael Kunz, who had a disastrous race last week out in China. That has sent him down the order, at least to 2nd in the championship. So far, 8 points down on Lucas Beisner. But we're going to get started with David Martinez. Let's get on board with that Cadillac. And we'll take us through a full lap around Spa-Francorchamps. The hard braking zone here, just around the 90-meter board, you brake, slightly overshoots Le Source hairpin. So we have a yellow in sector 3, but that's because the drivers are quite slow. So now we're going to go down. First left, that is Eau Rouge. Then we go up Radillon before heading towards the Camel Straight, all the way through in 8th gear, using so much of that battery. It's only got about 11% left as he makes his way to the end of that Camel Straight. A little bit of lifting, 30.9 is the current points, but I think we can go a couple tenths quicker later on, as soon as we have some track evolution with all the rubber that's being put down. It's David Martinez now going through that tricky Bruxelles or Rivage, then Speaker's Corner or Jackie X, as he makes his way to the 2nd straight line mode zone into Pujon, shifting one back through 7th. But it looks like the car really can't go that much faster. Moving on then through Lafanya, heading towards Stavolo. And the end of Sector 2, we have a 1:15.3 on the board as he now makes his way to the long bus stop chicane. First up, it's Blanchimont. That is right over here. There we are. That's through Blanchimont. And now in 8th gear, as we see the power dwindling down in that Cadillac, braking for the bus stop chicane, keeping it close. That's a great entry from David as he now makes his way across the start-finish line. First lap on the board, a 1:43.8, and that sounds quite good. But how close can the likes of us, Kenneth? Kenneth already beats that with half a second. That's a 43.3. Let's move over to championship leader and Beisner, who matches the lap time of Martinez in that second sector. Looks like Kenneth has put out a belter of a first lap time. Nobody really getting close to that just yet, as Beisner now makes his way through the bus stop chicane. Second now, Galindo only a tenth down. Beisner across the line, and he does gain some time there. Couple tenths quicker than our first lap of David Martinez. More drivers now coming through. Toppe, who moves to the top of the timing table, 43.2. Kenneth on second, Oliver not now in third, as we have more and more drivers coming through. Here's Rafael Kuntz, but his second sector time wasn't that great. Has not invalidated, luckily, but he was already 3 tenths down coming across the line. And yeah, he is quite down there as well. P17 for him, not the lap that he was hoping for. Lawrence Lowes on the other hand, that's a third place for him. And as even as Krieg also moved up into second, Lawrence Lowes only down 0.02 of a second with that. And with that, we also have all the first runs in. 19 drivers have been able to set a banker. Cloud hasn't been able to do so. Fastest currently, Toppe with a 1:43.238. Gives me a little bit of time to breathe as well, as we see Clout being the only driver currently in pit lane waiting for all the other drivers to join him in that. We have about 12 minutes left on the clock, so plenty of time, ample of opportunity for the drivers to set 2 more laps, and I think Cloud is going to do the same, not wasting too much of those tires, just relaxing a little bit before he does go out. The good thing that he might have now, though, is that if he goes out a little bit sooner with all the other drivers coming in, he might be able to get a clean lap round with without any of the other drivers blocking him. But looks like for now he is staying put. And he's not moving just yet. There is some action in the pit lane of Carlos Galindo, but that is Galindo, of course, coming into pit lane, not exiting pit lane as such. And more drivers, of course, heading into pit lane. Nobody exiting it just yet. Now we've had our first runs. Top 3, as you can see on the screen. Top 8, then is even as Krieg ahead of Lowes in third. Kenneth also heading into the 43.3s. But let us know in the chat who you think is going to take pole position here tonight. Currently waiting for Cloud to leave that pit lane. As soon as he does, we will be able to get things started. Takubi the Goat is going to take pole. Trust. Well, let's see if he is able to do so. Currently in P11. And it looks like my co-commentator Joseph is around, so he will be joining us in a moment. Joseph, if you hear me, feel free to speak up, interrupt, so I know you are around.
Hello, I am here indeed.
Well, perfect timing it is then. Welcome. We just had our first runs. We have 10 minutes left in this qualifying session. As I see, the weather overhead is starting to get a little bit more cloudy. Are you able to get into the lobby?
I am not. It's on invite only, so if I could have an invite, that would be wonderful. And then we could have 2 of us looking at the F3 action, of course. It's going to be round number 3 of the season. I was not here last week, but I'm going to be here this week for our racing, and it should be very good indeed to watch. Of course, Silverstone, even Spa, I misspoke, is one of my favourite circuits. It provides a big opportunity, really, for us to go racing, and so it should be a lot of fun. And I'm very excited to see the racing get underway.
Well, you have received the invite. Everyone was able to watch along with that, but that's of course totally fine, as we have currently 19 drivers out there on track. Cloud is lead. No, he's actually not leading the pack. It is likely one of the Cadillacs, and if that is the case, I assume that's going to be David Martinez, but we'll be keeping our eyes on Cloud, at least for now, as he is the only driver without a lap time set. Rafael Kuntz has now also left pit lane. Right. Last week out, of course, it was quite the race in China. I'm not sure. Did you see the results of that, Joseph?
Of course I did. How could I not keep up with my PCF3 action?
Well, with that, of course, we have a new championship leader in Lucas Beisner. He is currently down in P8. But as I said earlier on in the stream, so far the trend that we're starting to see is the driver that takes pole position is also the driver that takes the race win. And week 1, 2 weeks ago, in Silverstone, it was Rafael, and last week out, it was Lucas Beisner who was able to recap that feat. And let's see if we can make it 3 for 3 with a pole and a race win.
Yeah, hopefully so, as well, Lucas Beisner, of course, 4th place in the first round of the season, 1st in the second, so that gave him the opportunity to take the victory from pole position, and we'll see where he's going to stack up in this race so far, as we've got more drivers out there on the circuit. I'm watching on with Cloud as he looks to set his first lap of the day, and of course Cloud, who picked up a podium, his first podium of the season last time out. He's got 2 points finishes. He's one of not many drivers to have achieved that feat. In fact, he's only the 4th driver in this season to have picked up 2 points finishes. He joins Diego Ferro, Carlos Galindo, he joins Diego Ferro, Carlos Galindo, and Lucas Beisner in that feat of finishing 3 times in the points. And Cloud now currently does not have a lap on the board, so he'll be hoping to get himself within the 43s. I'd say a low 43, so a 43 point. I'd say at the end of this run, I reckon a 43.0 will be good enough for that provisional pole position heading into the final runs. But I mean, for now, I think just getting any form of 43 lap time will be good enough.
Yeah, I think so too. And Cloud now matching the second sector time of Lucas Beisner. So I think he'll be heading out somewhere between P7, P8, I think, as he completes his run, given, of course, that final sector is great. And it is indeed right there in P8. So great predictions there all the way around, as we have, I believe, the Ferraris coming through. It's no, it's it's the Haas's. It's also not the Haas's. These colors keep annoying me. It's the Audis that are coming through, of course. Now start-finish straight. We have the Astons also making their way, but we are watching Noah Raza as he's making his way to the end of that second sector. And he is on for not an improvement, sadly, 15.5. So he's already a couple tenths down. That means that last time round he had a great second sector. Even as Krieg now moves to the top of the timing table, Givano Ken is also improving to a 43.1 as we see someone go wide. And Toppe now moving over to the top. Lawrence has gone into pit lane. Oliver Knott has gone for quite the improvement as well, currently in P5. With this many drivers coming through, I just want to see where Rafael is going to come through. He's on for an improvement, 3.5 tenths in that middle sector. The final sector wasn't that great before, and he's now up in P10, but looks like in that final sector, he's losing quite a bit of time to everyone else there, Joseph.
We'll see Cloud exactly identical lap time to Rafael Kuntz, who, of course, is now in 10th place as he set that lap second time around. Valentino Labella has just come to the end of his run. Most of the drivers are at the end of their run. They've got a Haas in the final sector. That's going to be David Martinez, hoping to improve on his 143, but I don't think he's going to be able to do so, and he may well just duck back into pit lane. And then we just see everybody coming through to the end of their run. So this is a pretty good indication of where everybody is going to qualify, I think. However, it can all change in that final run. This is going to be so interesting. And I mean, I did say that a 43.0 would be good enough for pole position at this certainly point. It would be good enough. However, nobody's got it. Toppe with a 143.152, hoping to tried to regain some of the form that he had in the last game cycle, and one that saw him take a Williams development seat, and hopefully he can just take himself to the top of the order here today. Tope, who is currently going to find himself in the standings, 8th place after a 4th place last time around. So whilst it was a sluggish start to the season, and it was actually a DNF in the end at Silverstone, he's starting to kick his campaign off.
Yeah, and with almost a podium last week, Al, that of course means that this week his car will be screaming for a podium. I've noticed a couple of drivers leaving pit lane quite early. At least Victor Garcia left pit lane very early, as I believe one of the V-Carbs has also left pit lane already. I was starting to wonder whether that was due to the cloudy weather that we saw overhead, but I don't think we have to worry about that. Noah Raza, though, has already retired. It's raining already, so it was a great call from Victor Garcia to come out at this point, but if the rain comes through, as we do indeed see the rain now, we might have already seen the qualification complete, and with Noah already retiring, I think this might have been it, Joseph.
I think it may well have been, and I think this is going to be a godsend for Tope and Ivan Eskrig, Giovanni Kennis at the top of the field. 143.1s for themselves, and that's going to be the perfect time to set that perfect lap. When you have those shorter qualifying sessions where you do have the rain interrupting, you're going to have a little bit of uncertainty about where you should be in the order, when you should go out, because you've prepared for a fully dry session or a fully wet session. You've never prepared for these changing conditions. So those who've got it right on the night are going to be the Williams and the Alpine teams. Of course, the other Williams is going to be further down the order in 7th place, but still not too bad for Marius Owano. I don't think we'll be seeing any improvements for Victor Garcia, but we will watch on as the Haas driver heads through the first sector into or down the Kemmel Straight even. Is he going to be finding an improvement at the end of the first sector? He's down by a quarter of a second.
Yeah, he's down by a quarter of a second, and it looks like it's not going to be easy, especially Sector 2, where it's also tricky to keep that car on track. I don't think we're going to see any improvements in this qualifying session. A couple of drivers have come out, but the rain is starting to come down more and more. So with that, I think we already have our qualifying session complete. There's still 2.5 minutes left on the board. As it stands, as we see Victor Garcia stepping out in Puhan, it is just too slippery out there, Joseph. So I think we can call our top 5 already. So Tope is likely going to take pole position here tonight, ahead of Ivan Eskrig. Then it's his pairing Alpine of Giovanni Kennis, and then it's the Ferraris, Laurens Lauwers in 4th and Oliver Knott in 5th.
It certainly is, and well, it's going to be interesting to see where these drivers are going to stack up at the end of the race, and Tope retires, so that does demonstrate that he thinks that this qualifying session is indeed over, and I wouldn't disagree with him. It's going to be a good qualifying session for the Alpine team and for the Ferraris, as well as the Williams and the Mercedes. They're going to be taking up the top 9 rows of the grid. The only one that's not going to is Valentino Labella, as Victor Garcia clips his left to retire on the wall, and is going to retire from the session. So we're just waiting for all of these drivers to call this one to an end. No grid penalties that anyone would deem unfair, so it looks as though we're going to get a clean run straight to the green flag.
Yeah, let's hope that we don't get any penalties coming through from the game, because that would mean that we need a restart. Otherwise, we can just head on straight. But given the fact that the drivers are going out there on the inters to go for a little bit of practice, I do wonder, Joseph, if we might see some rain. Now, of course, Spa is quite susceptible to some rain. It's not going to be the first time we're going to see rain out there, as even picks up a little bit of gravel there on the exit of Stavolo. But I think they're preparing for what potentially could also be a wet race.
It may well be. Of course, when we can run straight through, there's a higher likelihood that it will be, because the lobby is randomized every time you create a new one. So whenever you do create that new one when you need to, it's going to become a little bit more difficult for the drivers to predict what's going to happen. However, when you've got a session like this, it's a little bit more expected. I'm not quite sure what the maths would actually be on that one, but it would be a little bit more expected that the rain would be falling on the circuit in a session like this. But of course, we'll wait and see, and the engineers do actually not to have access to that information just yet. They will do as we load into the main lobby, and we're just waiting for these drivers to get their final preparation laps. I'm not quite sure why we're seeing this. I think it may well just be an extended practice session for the likes of Ivana Skrieg and Carlos Galindo, both of which are on the intermediate compound attire. Franek Journey is going to be on a set of the soft, so I think he's a little bit delusional, and Dennis Langrock out there as well as his teammate. Luckily, only 20 drivers in the lobby, luckily for us at least, because that means we've got the opportunity to go to each one of the drivers snappy, because they haven't quite worked out yet how to make a 22 grid keybind. But I'm sure we'll get there in F1 29. Either way, this qualifying session coming to an end. The last few drivers are going to be retiring, and it's going to be an Alpine 2-3, top A on top.
Exactly. Now, we were supposed to have 21 drivers. Diego Ferrer is also available to race tonight, but he has some internet connection issues, so I'm not sure if we're going to see him join for the race start in P21, or if we're just going to see 20 drivers out there on grid. At least even as Krieg is extending that qualifying session, perhaps for some extra information for him in a potential wet race, or just to stall a little bit for Diego, but I guess it's the former rather than the latter, as he's now approaching the end of the second sector. Galindo is out on track still too, together with Langrock, so we do see quite a couple drivers still, but they are all on the intermediates if I'm not mistaken, and yes, they are indeed. Just waiting for everyone to come through. I don't think that Diego will not be joining us, so we will indeed have 20 drivers, Joseph.
Yeah, there we go. It's shades of the last however many years of the F1 game that we've got 20 drivers, and the shades of however many years in real life, as well as the checkered flag is waved. So we do get a full qualifying session, even if the rain did come before the final runs. It will be top A on the top of the field, of course, and we're looking further back. Rafael Kunc will feel as though there was more for him to have taken out of the qualifying session.
And now we see all that come to an end, which means that we have a little bit of time to take you through all the information about the race, but of course not until we cover this. The qualifying results: Top 8 takes pole position before it got rainy, ahead of Ivana Skrieg and Giovanni Kennis, and it's Laurens Lauwers in 4th, ahead of Oliver Knott, Carlos Galindo in 6th. Then it's Mario Ioanu, Valentino Labella, Cloud, and Rafael Kunc rounding off your top 10. Then it's Lucas Beisner in 11th, championship leader, ahead of David Martinez, Noah Raza, Victor Garcia, Tichubi, Claudio Diaz, Daniel Kuijer, Dennis Langrock, Redmers, and Franek Yaziorni. Now, let's go to our pre-race info to tell you a little bit about the track that we have tonight. So we are at Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometers and 4 meters, 4.3 miles. It's absolutely pouring out there, Joseph, which we'll come to in a moment. Distance from the grid to T1, 271 meters, a medium downforce track, and a pit lane time loss of 17.4 seconds. I'm quickly going to take you over to the full race view so you can see everything that's happening here, because this might be a wet race even.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be at least an intermediate race. All of the drivers on them at the moment. We know their aversion to the blue compound of tyre because, well, on this game, the intermediate typically is going to be faster after you've made it past the first couple of laps and a dry line started to form. So regardless whether it was actually a wet race or if it was an intermediate race, they would have still started on the intermediates, I would have thought, or at least started on the wets and then moved over after a couple of laps. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they contend with these conditions. Of course, it's kind of for them, with regards to the strategy, making it up as they go along.
Yeah, and just a quick correction as you catch that quite well, Florian. The race view that we just saw, the track map, was of course not that of Spa, but we are definitely at Spa here tonight, currently waiting for the drivers to load in their setups so we can get on our way. And here we are with 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights. And away we are for the third race of the season, the last race before our break week, as we have a good start from Toppy on the inside. A lot of cars drifting through all different angles. Contact between the Ferraris, a little tap on the rear as the Mercedes of Carlos Galindo tries to come through. As we move over to the mid-pack, 3-man wide, approaching Eau Rouge there. And it's Rafael Kunc who gets out there ahead. Has already gained a position there as they move uphill through Radial. Some cars going side by side even. Claudio Claudio Diaz picking up a position into P15 as well. Let's see how well they do. Positions changed. So far, a couple of drivers have gained 1 place. Carlos Galindo now gaining a 2nd place. A heavy fight over at P4 with the Ferrari man. It's now being pushed out by the 2nd Ferrari of Oliver Nod. And it looks like the gains, Joseph, that he just had have evaporated, because down the inside comes Valentino Lobella.
Yes, that is going to be really important. If Valentino Lobella can go through, it's going to be a kind of a lone soldier situation for him at the moment, as Carlos Galindo has his teammate right, or did have him right in behind, but Cloud did drop a little bit further back. Rafael Kunch as well trying to make positions off on the start, and he's managed to make his way through Amaris Owanu up into 8th place. Is there going to be pressure on the back of that McLaren? Even Marius Osowanu is going to have a look at it. Lucas Beisner tries to sweep around the outside. Devin Martinez and Noah Ratzer side by side behind these two as well. And there's going to be a move slightly further up. Oliver Knott and Lawrence Lowers, both Ferraris, looking very racy early on. Top 8 has a gap of almost a second, as there's still more scrapping. David Martinez makes his way to the top 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of action going on all throughout the track as we're trying to catch all of it. We see some gaps starting to emerge. Lucas Beisner now down over a 2nd behind the leading 8 as he sees one of the Cadillacs coming very close to him behind, but stays behind at least for now in the bus stop chicane. All the drivers currently still staying out. I don't think anyone has made contact with one another as Top 8 completes the first lap in just over 2 minutes. We see some debris, but I don't think that is any of the parts coming off the track. I think it's just the game showing that as we can now see the full results of that first lap. So it's 5 positions gained for Dennis Langrock moving into P13. 3 places gained for Frank Yazziorni. Great start for him as well. The worst starts going out to Mario Zinuano, dropped 9 places. Cloud dropped 3. Same can be said about Kyle now in last. And Victor Garcia, after a little bit of contact, I think he caused that yellow flag in Sector 2 earlier, down in P18 after he started in 14th.
Yeah, down in P18 at the moment, as Cloud is going to be on the inside of Noah Ratzer. Dennis Langrock trying to involve himself in this move as well, but they're still going to be side by side, still almost locking wheels, and this is going to open the door now to Claudio Diaz as Dennis Langrock backed off to allow them to fight. Langrock looking to the inside as Claudio Diaz looks to swipe all the way around, but the Aston Martin not quite able to move just yet. You can see how slippery it is out there on the circuit as Giovanni Kennis up into 4th.
Yeah, so Kennis has now dropped the position. Look at that. Top 8 is really able to get a lead. 1.7 seconds ahead of Evenes Krieg. Top 8 definitely feeling comfortable out there in the wet. And it looks like the drivers are starting to struggle a little bit on those intermediates already, even though we're still on lap 2. And I start to wonder whether it's the best decision to be out there on the inters, or if later on they have to switch for hards. It looks very cloudy up ahead still. So I do wonder if we're going to see some dry weather towards the end of the race. Let's actually take a look at the tires. Everyone is on the intermediate compound, so no strategy advantages there. But look at that. Giovanni Kennis, Oliver not fighting tooth and nail. Kennis defending the inside there, but the next corner he will be on the outside. And Oliver Knott knows that, sweeps through. Still side by side they go, just marginally ahead, but the next corner is going to be down to the right in the name of Lesour's hairpin, so he has to outbrake Oliver Knott here. Oliver Knott might go for a switchback, tries to stick around the outside, but looks like the attack has been fended off well by Kennis. A lot of fighting side by side, but he keeps it in front.
Yeah, right now he's going to be able to keep it in front as it almost looks as though the rain is easing off out there on the circuit. Giovanni Kennis just ahead of Oliver Knott as they head down the Kemmel Straight. Carlos Galindo will want to involve himself as well, and you know he's going to. They're going to be 3 wide as off of the circuit Carlos Galindo goes briefly, but then he realises that it's actually better. It's going to lose them less time if he just watches Kennis and not fight. And in fact, Giovanni Kennis is on a set of the soft compound tyres, so he made that gamble. He reckons that rain is not going to be out there too long, and no, that's a visual glitch. He is actually going to be on a set of those intermediate tyres, not around the outside. Kennis on the inside. They're going to be side by side through almost all of the corners in the start of Sector 2. Not squeezes Kennis out.
Yeah, and it makes for a very exciting start of the race. Rain always provides here at PSGL, making it even more closer and more overtaking opportunities as Carlos Galindo tries to send it down the inside. So there's a little bit of contact with the Alpine driver. He wants to go round the outside now, but has to stay put and immediately sees Labella coming close round the back of his Mercedes as he has to reposition for another move onto Giovanni Kennis. Let's go on board with the Mercedes man. He's got some great pace so far, but he now has to line it up, stay behind through Blanchimont, and then try to go for a move in the bus stop chicane and try to replicate what Oliver Nutt did in the previous lap, but then of course making sure that you are at the right end in Le Source hairpin. But looks like he stays behind for now, tries to line himself up through that bus stop chicane, but he's already too far behind. And look at Tope Joseph, 2.6 seconds clear at the start of lap 4.
Yeah, he's checked out in the early stages of this race as the drama is going to be mostly behind him. Even Skrieg has not actually been involved in most of it. It's going to be all over for that third place, but especially that fourth between Not Kennis and Galindo. Further back then, fights for the lower echelons of the points, and it'll be Cloud fighting with Lucas Beisner and getting through on the V-Carb as they head up towards the Kemmel Straight. Once again, it will be Lucas Beisner who tries to get in the slipstream, sit underneath the rear wing of that car. Giovanni Kennis through on Oliver Nutt in the meantime in that fourth place, and actually they'll remain side by side between those two as Lawrence Lowers and Ivan Skrieg are going to be fighting. They're going to be inside each other, and eventually Skrieg decides that it's better if he's actually able to see the braking zones and not going to have that Ferrari completely in the way. So he's going to make his way through is Lawrence Lowers, and actually Ivan Skrieg backing off. More fighting between the Ferraris and the Alpines in this early stages. Not defending from Kennis once again, and Galindo invites himself to the party.
Yeah, now he's going to be on the inside, heading into Pouhon. There's some contact with Labella just behind, and some of the cars go a little bit wide, but keep it on track at least for now. But it looks like some gaps are starting to emerge. Lau is definitely much quicker than even his Krieg, who he's now managed to dispatch, not losing an awful lot of time to his Krieg up ahead. 2.3 seconds down already, and he's really holding up the pack all the way down to P13 in the name of Dennis Langrock behind him. So we have a long queue, a long line of drivers starting to form, and I see Rafael Kuntz, who was championship leader up until last week, now very close to the back of that V-Carb. Of course, a teammate of Labella, now championship leader Lucas Beisner, but he finds himself outside of the points in P11 currently. Now here we go, Rafael Kuntz on the outside, tries to brake a little bit later than Labella, and he will, oh, there's contact with the Alpine up ahead. That is not what Rafael Kuntz was hoping for. I don't think he's had any damage, but that little bit of contact means that he's once again behind. Labella now sees a move down the inside. There's contact between the three wide into La Source. They keep it all on track. Nobody has spun out magically, but he loses a position to David Martinez as a result.
Yes, he does. That's not ideal for Rafael Kuntz, as they're going to keep trying to go at it. Claudio Diaz and Lucas Beisner still scrapping, and Diaz way off the circuit to try to defend against the Austrian, who's going to be squeezed as they head out to the Kemmel Straight, back under the rear wing. There's going to be so many fights out there on the circuit, it's hard to keep a track of them. Ivan Skrieg defends ahead of Lawrence Lowers. Carlos Galindo gets through on Oliver Nutt and Giovanni Kennis amazingly, and actually, Oliver Nutt being on the inside has made his way through. It opened up the opportunity. Carlos Galindo let him through, knowing that they were going to lose time. Still fighting just behind her with Claudio Diaz defending ahead of Cloud, who's going to get squeezed out maybe into the wheel tracks of Lucas Beisner, who gives it a go around the outside. Nowhere to move for the V-Carb at the moment. He's really putting them under pressure as Takubi's going to drop back a couple of positions in the further back pack, but this is really tight racing indeed.
It's really tight racing indeed, and watching that sort of mid-pack, although it's all the way from 4th down to was now still P13 actually. The gap to Marzin 102.5 seconds, and the gap up ahead from Nutt to, once again, Laos, 3.4 seconds. But a lot of heavy fighting going on behind. Rafael Kuntz, Labella, Martinez, and Diaz also close to one another. Actually, almost everyone is within 0.2 of a second of one another, except for Giovanni Kennis. And here they go, train towards Blanchimot, still pouring out there as they try to make their way towards the bus stop chicane. They're trying to go for overtaking moves. Now you need to choose where to go in the braking zone. Very late braking from Rafael Kunz. I'm not sure if there was contact with Labella up ahead, but they keep everything on track nice and tight. As Cloud has now moved up in 11. Beisner's still in P12, so he's dropping down a little bit. He now finds himself on the inside of Cloud into Lesour's hairpin. He goes. And round the inside, a move tried to be made by David Martinez, who momentarily was ahead of Rafael, but he swoops round the outside and he's back in P8.
Yes, he is indeed. Rafael Kunch in 8th place right now, but looking slightly further up as it looks like Oliver Knott's got the run on Carlos Galindo. It looks as though Giovanni Kennis is going to have to pick a lane, and he's picked the inside line, so the Alpine will be getting that momentum and getting ahead into the next braking zone. Carlos Galindo in the middle, he's going to be squeezed unless Oliver Knott backs out, which he does, and somehow Carlos Galindo is going to find his way through and all of that. However, Giovanni Kennis being still on the inside will give him the advantage, but in the end, him squeezing Galindo wide has actually worked against him, which meant that Carlos was able to get that exit 2 by 2 by 2 as Labella and Rafael Kunch are trying to involve themselves in the fight. Inside line for Carlos Galindo. That will be 4th place for him. Giovanni Kennis taking 5th, and then Oliver Knott and Valentino Labella side by side, not getting through. Labella losing time. Kunch on the inside. The McLaren's going to try to make his way through. There's a bit of wheel banging between the two as there's going to be an early turn in from Valentino Labella just because he didn't realise how closely alongside the McLaren was going to be. Labella's dropping like a stone. Martinez tries to make his way through in the Cadillac, and he's going to keep fighting it away, keep duking it out. He's on the outside of Claudio Diaz, but in the end, making the move on Valentino Labella meant that he lost that momentum, and therefore he lost 9th place.
Yeah, with all this fighting, the gap that we had between Langrock before and Maraziano, that was 2.5 seconds. The gap now half a second, as Maras has completely closed that gap and now moves himself in with that fight. Victor Garcia just momentarily out of it, 1.1 seconds, but it's not going to be long until we have 4th all the way down to P18, caught in one massive train. Then it's 5 seconds from Galindo to Laos, and Top Bay leading the race, 5.2 seconds ahead of Ivan Krieg. It looks like his pace is starting to die down just a little bit, but he's already built up quite the healthy margin as he's been doing oh so well throughout the start of this race. But let's now move towards the top of the pack, because we're heading up Eau Rouge again. We're heading through Radial and we're going towards the Camel Straight, where once again we're going to see a flurry of overtakes start to go underway. First up, it's Giovanni Kennis. He tries to go round the outside, but doesn't look like he's got enough energy left. Further down, it looks like everyone keeps it nice and tight for now. There only is a move, I think, for Cloud on the inside of what I believe to be Mario's, but he just stays ahead and stays in the same place he already was in.
That's going to stay in the same in front of his journey further down the order, having a go and having a fight, and keep it going on 7th, 17th and 18th place. And when you're down at that point, when you feel as though you're down and out from the competitive of the race, you may well find yourself fighting a little bit harder.
Joseph, I think you're lagging a little bit because you're breaking up over on Discord.
You're lagging on my end as well, so I'm assuming that it's going to be for me.
All right. Well, hopefully it will fix itself momentarily before we see the return of Robot Joseph in a moment. But we're going to see where the rest of the pack is now heading towards. We're now watching Valentino Labella, who's about 3/10 ahead of Claudio Diaz. It looks like the gaps are starting to settle in a little bit. Where we saw everyone within 2/10 of one another, the gaps are now moved up to about 3, and in cases even 4/10. So it looks like the drivers are starting to spread out a little bit more, and where I thought Tope was slowing down, he must have heard that, Joseph, because he's now ahead 6.4 seconds as we see a move down the inside from Claudio Diaz. It's Carlos Galindo gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. We saw earlier on at the start of Lecombe that he cut the corner a little bit. He gave that position up, even though it was more through fighting with Kennis, but this time around he gets a big one. Let's actually move over to Tope a little bit. Look at that. He can just see the cars in his rear view mirror, but he is so far up ahead. 6.5 seconds, really showing his masterclass out there in the rain. Let's hope we can see much more of him, but we'll have to move back straight into the fighting, because here we are with Valentino Lobella 2/10 down as they make their way through that twisty second sector. Now gonna head downhill into Bruxelles, as he's still behind around the outside. A very audacious move from Claudio Diaz. Almost outbreaks himself with that, but he can't make the move just yet, as Caio now gets 1 place up on Mario Ziuano for 15th place, as he's now fully caught up with the train as well. 16th position all the way up into 4th is within that one and the same train. But I want to see how Rafael Kuntz is doing. He's currently in P6. He's gained 4 places since that race start, and in order to regain that championship lead, he has to pick up 8 or more points than Lucas Beisner, who's currently in P11, Joseph.
Yeah, it'll be crucial. I hope that I'm not a robot, and I hope I'm back
perfect.
and you can actually hear me.
It's perfect now.
Beautiful. I know I am, but I didn't know about the audio. But lap 8 of 22 now, and we watch these drivers continue to go racing. Of course, it's died down a little bit towards the end of the stint, especially as it looks as though this rain is not going to go away anytime soon. Valentino Lobella on the outside line of Oliver Knott, going for 7th place, and he's going to be trying to break as late as he possibly can. He's successful, and he's on that inside line, so Oliver Knott forced to give him that racing room, and they're going to continue to do so. Valentino Lobella, though, almost forcing Oliver Knott out of racing room on the outside line of the final corner of the bus stop chicane, heading down to the hairpin. Who will come out on top? It still looks as though they're going to keep duking it out. Oliver Knott in the end has to tuck in, because he has a bit more of a slide out of the first corner, which means that he's tried to take the power a bit too much, and so he sits and waits and watches, hopes that he can get that momentum on the V-Cub, and he may well have just done that. Claudio Diaz behind is going to want to pressure, so it's going to be all on Oliver Knott. The pressure is going to be ramping up for the Ferrari driver as he heads to the outside of Valentino Lobella. Claudio Diaz looks to the outside, then Valentino Lobella tries to cut him off, so Claudio Diaz felt as though he was squeezed out of that one. That may well have been moving across a couple of times for Diaz, and or for Lobella on Diaz, so that may well not have been what he would have wanted to see. Oliver Knott, though, holding 7th place, which is the most crucial part for him at the moment, as now the Cadillac of David Martinez welcomes himself back into the fight. So does Lucas Beisner. Here he goes around the outside of the Cadillac into the gravel, dropping down behind Langrock.
Yeah, some crazy having fighting going on there. Lucas Beisner losing 1 place as a result. But we see Langrock and Claudio Diaz really flourishing in these wet weather conditions. 7 places gained. Giovanni Kennis and Rafael Kuntz have started to take their fight out now for P5. And it looks like Kennis stays ahead, at least for now, of Rafael. The gap from Galindo to Laus is starting to dwindle down a little bit. Laus and Krieg still staying within a second of one another, as we now see even Krieg with a man out there on top, still almost 8 seconds ahead. That is, of course, Tope. But I have the feeling, Joseph, that it's not raining as much as it was at the race start. So perhaps if this weather starts to continue to fade out, we might see some dry weather towards the final 4 to 5 laps of the race. It looks like some drivers have now come in. I'm curious to see if they're going to risk it, but I don't think they can really ditch these inters. Do you think so?
Well, this is exactly what I was going to say. I was thinking that they were going to come into the pits because they were expecting to do maybe just those 9 laps on those intermediates again, and then they can see what can happen, because they're going to want those entirely fresh tyres. And in fact, Dennis Langrock onto hards. I believe that's actually going to be a mistake from the TRT driver. Just didn't select the right tyres, but we'll wait and see as Redmond sets the fastest lap. So shows that it is getting quicker out there on the circuit. Is it actually raining out there? I'm not sure, as Kunch had a look past Giovanni Kennis. It's spitting, but it's very much not as strong as it once was. Victor Garcia and Cloud going for it in the mid-pack of those who have not boxed just yet. I think this is just going to be a strategic decision to try to pick up the undercut from those right at the back. Not sure whether Langrock's call was the right one. We'll see as he goes for a move on Daniel Koyo. Could not quite do so on his former Thomas Enger Sim Racing teammate. And so he just has to keep having a look. We'll keep a close eye on that hard compound tyre runner.
Yeah, he's going to lose quite a bit of time in that middle sector where that extra grip of the Inter is going to give that the upper hand. I think they're still about a couple seconds off if they stop for the hards just now. But with the rain starting to ease off, I think if some of these drivers can extend their stints on the Inters, they might actually go for the strategy that Langrock went for. Langrock definitely went too early, whether it was a glitch or a deliberate move. It's a little bit too early, but he's not losing as much time as you would expect. Like I say, I think it's about 3 seconds now, Joseph. Oh, Toppy said.
I think it is as in comes Toppe, as you say, and Rafael Kunc looks around the outside of Giovanni Kennis on this occasion. It's going to be both of them sliding, and actually Kunc is going to continue on. The only driver, apart from Valentino Labella, to continue on this set of tyres. Actually, there's
hard for Toppe
in terms of the top two. In comes the Williams, and it will be hard compound tyres. Dennis Langrock, the test bunny, and it didn't quite fail that experiment. I think it may well be the crossover period right now. I think it may well be exactly the right time as more drivers come in. Lucas Beisner even onto a set of the mediums.
Yeah, more drivers now coming through with their pit stops, but not everyone is convinced that they should go for the Inters. We do see that the weather has dried up. There's normal rain falling down, and Giovanni Kennis has just stopped for the Inter, so I think that might have been the wrong call. The drivers that went for... We just saw the lap ago. It was almost crazy to go for the hards, which we saw Langrock do. But now, a lap later, it looks like everything has changed, and it looks like Langrock just was a lap too early. With the drivers now coming in, I think they've made the right call. And with the drivers still staying out, Alexa Takubi, Ioanu, Cloud, Garcia, Labella, and Rafael Kunc, your current race leader, I think if they now go to dry compounds, they will be fine, Joseph.
The really interesting one to watch is going to be Takubi versus Toppe, because that's two drivers on a set of two different tyre compounds, or even later on in the race, we could be seeing Oliver Knott fighting it out with Lawrence Lowers. Sooner rather than later, so those two will be scrapping it out on what will be similar aged hards and then similar age intermediate tyres. So there's still a lot to play for out there as we head to the halfway point of this race, and it's mad to say that it's the halfway point because of the amount of action we've had, but it is going to be the case as Rafael Kunc 1.9 ahead of Valentino Labella at the moment. This is going to be a really interesting consideration. Toppe going for a move on his teammate, I'd imagine, Marius Ioanu around the outside of Blanchimont, and he will hold down that power, try to making that move, and he's going to make that move in the end. Ioanu's not going to put up too much of a fight. That's interesting. That is a demonstration, I think, that tyre is better. Lawrence Lowers and Ivan Skrieg side by side. Lowers gets through, and don't forget that's the fight for P2 as Kunc and Labella and Garcia and Cloud and Ioanu and Takubi are all in. I'm expecting them all to be on the dry tyres.
Yeah, and that means for quite a few drivers out there that have just stopped for the Inter. So that's Oliver Knott, Claudio Diaz, David Martinez, Giovanni Kennis, more drivers coming through. Daniel Kaya, I missed. Carlos Galindo and Redmers. They are now on the wrong set of compounds. Unless we're going to see more rain in, well, within the next lap, really, they will have to come in again later on, and they will have a very, very tough race towards the end. As David Martinez picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, we see Oliver Knott fighting with Lawrence Lowers. It looks like the crossover point has not quite... Well, it has happened. The Hearts are on par. Knott tries to sweep it around the outside. Heavy defending coming in from Lawrence Lowers, but he is on the inside. He will stay ahead as we have a yellow in Sector 1. That was for Frankie Aziorni, I believe. But it looks like the Hearts really are the better compound now.
They really are, and there's still fighting between these drivers. Claudio Diaz and Oliver Knott trying to go for a move. Claudio Diaz around the outside of Knott and is going to make that move. Now we'll try to put the pressure on Lawrence Lowers as those tyres are going to be very briefly the better tyres, but not quite yet able to make that move. David Martinez all over the back of Oliver Knott as well. Don't forget, though, he's got a penalty. Daniel Koya wanting to make his way through. Is it going to be the run for Daniel Koya on the inside of David Martinez? 5th place is what he's searching for. 5th place is what he'll get if he's able to get through on flip-flap, and he looks to the inside once again, braking later, but it looks as though Martinez has just managed to take the normal racing line, has just managed to stay ahead.
And look at that, Kairos currently up 11 places from his race start. Claudio Diaz is up 13 places from his race start with that early pit stop. But he's going to feel the pain of that later on down the line as those hard and medium runners are going to catch up with him inevitably. As we see, Ken is already starting to struggle there. Even as Krieg, the same for him. Both of the Alpines now down in 8th and 9th as we see some drivers come in. Diaz, Not and Martinez have decided this is not going to give us anything staying out there on the inters. It is best to stay out there on the dry set of tires. As for Tope, whatever happened in the wet was perfect for him. He leads by over 10 seconds on Laurens Lauwers, and for the others it is all a catch-up game now. But for another driver that this race is starting to come out really well for is Rafael Kunz. He won, of course, that first race after starting on pole position. He's now up 6 places in P4. His nearest competitor, Lucas Beisner, has actually managed to get up in P7, so he's doing quite well as a result. But it looks like Rafael is starting to, well, at least going to gain a little bit on Beisner in that championship.
Yeah, and he's trying to gain on Daniel Koyer in terms of this race as well. Koyer, who of course went for that intermediate set of tyres, and he's actually the only driver to have stayed on them from that first initial group, apart from Carlos Galindo, who's having a different race, and he finds himself down at the back of the order. 13 of 22 gone, which means we're going to have 9 to go. And Tope, I mean, this has been a perfect storm for the Finnish driver. I really don't think you could have a more perfect weekend than he's had so far. He took pole position, he started off, there was carnage behind him, he didn't have any problems with it, and then he was just able to build up a 10-second gap. He got the pit stop strategy exactly right, which I don't think many other drivers can claim that they did. If we're looking at it, it's him, it's Lauwers, it's a Skrieg, and that's basically it for an extra journey as well. But of course, he's not had the greatest of races for himself, so I think he'd say that he's had an absolutely nailed strategy here today. So nothing really going wrong. It's a perfect storm for Tope, who hopes to well, keep that championship fight going and keep himself up at the top of the order, which of course, as I said, he had a sluggish start at Silverstone, did better last time around, and he's just going from strength to strength.
Yeah, we see Giovanni Kennis now coming into pit lane, as well as Rafael Kunz at the fastest lap time of the race, now beaten by Cloud and Labella momentarily. The gap still to Tope, 10.4 seconds, but behind. The drivers are starting to gear up. Lucas Beisner having some good pace on those mediums. I think he's one of the few drivers out there on the mediums. Let's have a look. Let's see, Victor Garcia has also gone for the mediums. Same can be said now about Diaz, Knott, Kennis, and Redmers, who's also gone for his third pit stop, maybe even of the race. I think it's a second though. But yeah, quite some gaps out there. Actually, the gap from Diaz and Knott is not too far to the back of Yesiorni and the other drivers, so maybe they'll still be able to catch up and go for points. But I think Knott and Diaz were hoping to pick up more than just a couple of points here tonight.
Rafael Kunz onto the podium ahead of Daniel Koyer. It was a pretty simple move in the end. He just knew he had more grip, and Daniel Koyer knew it as well, so didn't really give him much of a fight, didn't really want to give him much of a go, because he knew that in the end it was going to be faster for the hard compound tyre runner, as Koyer tries to make the most of those tyres right now. And, well, I mean, it's going to be tricky for him to keep that one going. 14 of 22. Tope has a 9.1 second gap, which is being closed in by Lauwers, as Rafael Kunz runs pretty wide and loses a bit of time. And I don't think that's going to help him in his chase of the Ferrari right up ahead at all. But it has been a very good race from Rafael Kunz. Of course, he's been gaining places ever since he started this race, in 10th place, now up to 3rd place. The only other driver, or one of, he's 4th place in the gainers, behind Daniel Koyer, who's gained 13, Dennis Langrock, who's gained 10, and it will be 8 for Victor Garcia as well. But I'd say that he's probably gained the most valuable positions, considering that Daniel Koyer has to pit again, which he indeed does. And, well, that means that we'll be seeing Dennis Langrock up 11 places from the start. So that gambled undercut has worked, but is it going to work towards the end of the race?
Yeah, they definitely had to come in now, because you see you're losing quite a bit of time to all the other drivers. For the drivers that just stopped, that did go for the inters and now switched to mediums, they're about a second quicker than anyone else are out on track. Most notably, Oliver Knott currently in P13, so we'll be looking to catch up First overtake Yaziorni, then close down the gap to Takubi before closing yet another big gap, 3.6 seconds to Maraziwanu, and then still hoping to pick up some points here tonight. But yeah, I think most of the drivers that were on the Inters have now swapped. It's only Carlos Galindo who hasn't done so, but I think as soon as he decides to go for a pit stop, it might also be to retire the car, as I don't think there will be any hope for him then to pick up any points. But he has to hope now for a safety car, and to be honest, with these standards that we've seen so far this season, I don't think it's very likely we're going to see any of that anytime soon. Let's see, Cloud, in the meantime, is getting very close to the back of that Audi up ahead. That is Dennis Langrock. Langrock having a great race, started in P18, now in P7. Really massive improvement for him, but Cloud is looking to take one away from him. Oh no, it's Krieg!
Right now, Cloud. Ivan Krieg, 3-second time penalty. That's cost him this race. That's cost him the chance to fight for a podium. That is absolutely huge for the hard compound tyre runner, and a big shame because he absolutely nailed that strategy. And well, he fought his way up to 4th place, 1.7 behind Rafael Kunch. 3 seconds will be added to his time as Langrock and Cloud are going to go side by side into the final corner. Cloud will get ahead briefly. Langrock will be alongside, and with the better exit, he's expected to go straight through. But into Le Source at turn number 1, who will be later on the brakes. Cloud will. Langrock on that inside, which means he will get that better exit, and Cloud will be squeezed out to the curbing. And in the end, it will actually be Cloud to make his way through. Langrock stays alongside. Up Eau Rouge, up Radion. Who's going to have the guts to hold it there? Not Langrock for now. He tucks in behind, but with the straight mode you'd expect he's going to be able to give the Mercedes a right old go, and he's going to try to. Tucking into the slipstream. Where is he going to find that time? Where is he going to find that opportunity? Nowhere, as he lifts and coasts at the end of the straight and gives him that position for now.
That was a great move from Cloud. You saw that Langrock was in the inside of the source as we see a big send onto Lucas Beisner, completely catching Beisner off guard and getting ahead in P6. 2 overtakes already for Cloud, but I want to go back to that moment into Lesour's hairpin. He was on the outside. They were pretty much side by side, but he outbrakes Dennis Langrock, goes round the outside and comes out ahead. That was some great overtaking move from Cloud, but I think the one on Beisner just now was even better, completely outbraking him into Brussels, catching him napping and moving up into P6 as we see Labella is starting to make some moves up ahead as well, getting towards the inside almost of Dennis Langrock, and it looks like Langrock is about to drop a couple places.
It certainly does indeed. Langrock's going to drop a couple of places potentially with Valentino, Labella and Marius Owanu right in behind, so that's going to give them the opportunity because of that tyre life. I know it's only 2 laps, but that can make a huge world of difference late on into this race. And, well, it will be Top A at the top with 11.5 seconds to Lorenz Lauers in 2nd place, Rafael Kunch 3rd with a 1.7 second gap behind, and then looking further back, Victor Garcia trying to get within the DRS of Ivan Skrieg. It's going to be close, I think, for 4th place because, of course, that penalty is going to make sure that it's a fight between Garcia and Cloud and Lucas Beisner and Dennis Langrock and Valentino Labella and Marius Owanu, and maybe Ivan Skrieg can build up that gap. And do you know what I mean? They're just going to duke it out, and it's going to get real close.
And we now go on board with the V-Carb of Valentino Labella, who's gone within 2/10 of Dennis Langrock up ahead. We saw a move almost starting to materialize. Here comes the move down the inside. A lot of overspeed onto the Camel Straight, and ahead he goes of Dennis Langrock now in P8, now behind his teammate Lucas Beisner, who has gone for a very early switch onto the mediums. I wonder how well they are going to hang on, or if he will be falling down the order a bit. But with Labella now in between, that might give himself the buffer that he needs, although this early on, already thinking about the championship, I'm not sure if the V-Carb team is going to be doing that. Further on down the line, Oliver Knott, who stopped a couple of laps later, did go for a 2-stopper. He's also on the mediums. He's currently the fastest man out there on track, but he's been stuck behind Takubi for a little while now. He's within that 1 second mark. He's able to shave some tenths off of that too, but I don't think he's able to get ahead for now, and that shows that the drivers that did go for the hards did make the right call there. For Knott, he had to make a move to try and still go for potential points. But now 4.5 seconds roundabout down on Mario Ziwanu. I think that's a task one too tall, Joseph.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be tricky now to find that way through, as there's going to be very close racing for this 5th place right now, as it could end up being the fight for 4th, as Valentino Labella is going to have an issue in the final sector, and he's going to go way off the circuit. Is that going to be a puncture? No, it's not. It looks like it because of the front wing on Valentino Labella, but yeah, he's going to keep trying to fight his way up, and that was a moment of madness, it seems, for the V-Carb, who's trying to recover back past Oliver Knott.
Yeah, speaking about points, it looks like Oliver Knott has points back on the cards now because Labella is very close to him. Up ahead, Takumi is now in P10, so maybe he does have a chance after all to pick up some points, but he'll first have to pick up that V-Carb, who I think did spin there at the bus stop chicane after a little bit of contact. Knott has now gone ahead, and now he just needs one more to still pick up some points, after that switch to the Inters ended up being the wrong one, where he so much was in for a fight for perhaps even a podium tonight out here in Spa. But the gaps are starting to increase quite a bit. Up in the top 10, there's actually 2 drivers, Joseph, that are still within a second of one another, and they're both behind Cloud.
Yeah, which makes it 3, with Victor Garcia only 8/10 off of the back of Cloud at the moment, and Cloud not too far off the back of Ivan Skrig as well. There's 1.1 the second, the difference between the Alpine and the Mercedes for 4th and 5th place. Victor Garcia, though, just trying to stay within the slipstream, but not quite able to do so just yet. Lucas Beissner looking the more threatening of that 3 at the moment, and you feel as though it's only a matter of time before he tries to make that move with the straight line mode, with the fact that he's only about 5/10 behind.
Yeah, and with all that action happening earlier on, Takumi is also caught up with Marius Ioannou, so there is a fight going on for P9 even, as Marius is losing quite a bit of speed there going through Blanchimont, but I think that's also because of the battery. I don't think he's got that much left, as we see round the outside the McLaren from Takumi goes. Looks like he has to yield already, and now Oliver Knott is the next one, but he's going to try and send it down the inside once again into Lesor's hairpin. Very late braking. Oh, this is why. Marius Ioannou is missing a front wing end plate. That is why he's been slowing down. That is why the other drivers have been catching up. So perhaps it was Marius who initiated that contact with Labella a lap ago.
Yes, it may well be indeed, and that's not going to be ideal at all, as Ivan Skrig drops back behind Cloud, who makes that position up. That could be important, because that means that there's a car as a buffer. Takumi makes his way through on Ioannou. Oliver Knott tries to find his way through on the inside as well. What a move this will be for the Ferrari. What a move it is.
And into the points, Oliver Knott goes, currently on 2 provisional points, still only 4 places down with that extra pit stop in hand. So it really shows that great pace that Oliver has had tonight. Now 3.3 seconds down on the next 3 cars of Garcia, Beissner and Langrock. Then up ahead, Skrig is getting close to Cloud. Looks like Garcia might have made a mistake as he's dropped out of that range with Cloud that he was much closer to earlier on. Skrig, of course, still has that 3-second time penalty, which would drop him now at least behind Garcia, maybe also behind Beissner. So Skrig will have to keep his momentum up. But further up ahead, we have a fight going on for P2. Rafael Kunz has managed to close the gap onto Laurens Lauwers. And if Rafael manages to get P2 here, Joseph, I think he might as well. It's going to be very close for the championship then. I think he's going to be right on par with Lucas.
Yeah, it's going to be close indeed, as well, of course, the early stages of the championship, it can go one way or another. It can swing both ways, as well, we'll see what they do later on into the course of this championship. Of course, at the moment, it's going to be early stages, so they're not going to be thinking about it too much, but as they head on later into it, it's going to be really, really interesting indeed. But yeah, at the moment, it is certainly a very good start indeed for what they will want to the season. Rafael Kunz on the back of Laurens Lauwers, and actually on the outside of Laurens Lauwers as he tries to make his way through into P2. Kunz back up to second place, and you got to say, this has been a decent recovery.
Yeah, it's been a really good recovery. Qualified in P10, not what he was hoping for, but now finding himself in P2 after a massive recovery race, and I think the most that he can do. The gap to Toppy now 12.6 seconds. Toppy, of course, will manage to get a 10-second buffer out there in the wet and also in the dry. He is not to be touched out there in front. We'll go over to him when he is on his final lap to at least catch him, or see him catch that checkered flag in a bit. but for now, we're going to move over to some more fights because Beisner has gone ahead of Victor Garcia, and with those fading and aging mediums, he's managed to get ahead of, well, at least one of the other medium runners, but there's a hard runner, I believe, in the name of Dennis Langrock just behind. So Langrock will be a big threat to them towards the end of this race. The man who's already gained 10 places from his starting position and hoping to get some more points out there. But with Beisner in 6, he will get some more points to cover off Rafael, who is now in P2. And round the outside, Langrock wants to go through to bus-up chicane. Almost 3 guys fighting for it as they now head into the bus-up chicane. That, of course, was Blanchimont. Now down into there. Keep it tight. Try and go for a switchback. There's no space there. Beisner kept position. Garcia did so as well. But Langrock is starting to hound them down.
Yeah, fighting going on the penultimate lap of this race. This has been a very, very good one to watch indeed, and it doesn't feel as though there's going to be... it doesn't feel as though they're going to let off at the end of this race either. It feels as though the pressure's going to be ramped up, especially for those positions in the points, as Marius Owanu wants to go for the fastest lap on the final one. Rafael Kunch holding on ahead of Lawrence Lowers for that second place, and it will be Dennis Langrock and Oliver Knott fighting with Takubi. So a very close one between those two drivers, and Takubi, in fact, was going to have a look at, fighting Oliver Knott. Dennis Langrock was really close to the back of Victor Garcia. In the end, he's jumped back. But Beisner, Garcia and Langrock feels like something that could be really, really interesting very, very soon.
Yeah, and because Beisner is on the oldest of the mediums as well. He's on 10-lap old mediums compared to the 9 of Garcia, 11 for Langrock, but that's on the hards, and not on 8-lap old mediums. He's caught up now with that pack, as Kenneth also picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limit. It's been a horrendous race for him after switching to the inters in his first stop, which ended up being the wrong call later on, but of course at the time seemed to be the right one. But yeah, Beisner losing a lot of time on the drivers up ahead. That is bringing everything much closer. And that means we're going to see a great fight for P6. Top 8 once again even setting the fastest lap time with a 1:48.2. But he surely is flying towards that finish line. Only 1 lap to go.
Yes, he is really flying. Victor Garcia on the inside line, and Lucas Beisner, Dennis Langrock trying to get himself involved around the outside as well. And there's going to be a lot of bumping between those drivers, but there's going to be less bumping for Dennis Langrock, who's squeezed onto the curbing. He will look to the inside. He will get through. It's 3 wide behind him between Knott, Garcia and Beisner, and it will be Beisner who gets the edge. It's going to be Takubi who makes his way through on Oliver Knott as well. So they sorted themselves out and completely shook up the order. One of these drivers in this fight won't get points at the moment. It's Labella out of them and not on the hot seat.
Yeah, not having a little bit of a moment until Lesor's hairpin, taking in too much speed, but he now still has some speed going down the back straight, but it looks like he already has to yield and has to hope that some of the drivers up ahead are going to make some mistakes so that he gets some positions at the end still, but it's going to be tough. Now towards Bruxelles, has to defend from Labella behind, who's got that overspeed on the hards, wants to try and sweep it round the outside, but stays put for now. And ahead, Beisner has only lost 1 position, but looks like Langrock is starting to get away with it. And we have a great fight going on for P2. Side by side they go. Cloud has caught up with them as well. So we have a 3-horse fight for the 2 podium positions. Lauenslau still staying ahead. Marziduano picking up another 3-second time penalty. Lowen stays ahead for now. But let's move on to the man of the hour, the man of the day, the man of Spa. Toppe coming across the start-finish line from pole to race win, and that's 3 for 3 with poles and race wins, but Toppe completely dominating it as 3-man now swerve into the bus stop chicane. Who comes out first? It's Rafa Okuns. I see a part flying from one of the Mercedes. It's Cloud coming through ahead of Laos, but that was a close fight for 3rd.
Really, really close indeed between those drivers, and it's really close further back with Dennis Langrock just about edging out Lucas Beisner ahead of Takubi and Oliver Knott. Almost, it's 0.11 that splits Beisner, Takubi and Knott. Then Valentino Labella just behind Victor Garcia, Franek Jojourny. Then Claudio Diaz slides his way across the line. Koyo, Kellis and Uanu will round out the 16 finishers, as we've got 4 who did not. But a great, great race from Top 8 all the way up to the top of the order. That is something he can be very proud of.
Yeah, and Cloud also, what a massive recovery. He was a couple of seconds down on the guys in second and third, but he's managed to catch up, and in that final lap, in that final corner, still overtaking Glauenslauers for a podium position, his second podium of the season. But the man of the hour, there we see it, Tope, who comes through first, and he takes the race win after also taking that pole position, so 17 points going to him. Then Rafael Kuntz, who is going to take over the championship lead, I believe, by 1 point over on Beisner. Then it's Cloud in third, rounding off the podium. Lauenslauers in fourth, place that he started. Even as Krieg in fifth, not having any trouble from that penalty in the end. Then it's Langrock ahead of Beisner, Takubi in 8, Oliver Knott still picking up 2 points, Labella snatching away that final point, and Garcia sadly out of the points, even by just a bit. Then it's Franek Yaziorni, Claudio Diaz, Daniel Kaya, Giovanni Kennis, Marzioanu, and then the non-qualifiers or non-finishers of Carlos Galindo, Brett Mers, David Martinez, and Noah Raza. But Joseph, that was quite the race, and I think we have to thank the rain for that.
I think we certainly do. What a race we had out there on the circuit. That was one of the races of the season, I would imagine. But if not, then we can stick around. Of course, we've got plenty of racing action to keep your eyes and ears on top of all the way throughout the PSGL channel, including lots of races in Tier 3 or F3 even. However, next week, break week.
Next week, indeed, break week, before in 2 weeks we're going out to the Madrid. Let's quickly move over to the calendar so we can see what is all coming up ahead. So here we have it then, our calendar. We've already gone to Silverstone and China. We just saw a race in Belgium. Next week, of course, the break week before moving on to Madrid, the first ever race on the Madrid, which is going to be also interesting to watch. Then it will be Austria for round 5 before we move on to Imola, Las Vegas, Mexico, Brazil, Bahrain, and Texas, our season finale, and all in one go. 11 races on this calendar, of which we have just seen 3. Now, I'm trying to get some information from the drivers whether they are going to want to do any interviews. It looks like Tope sadly is not up for it, but Cloud seems to be interested in it. So let's see if he's going to join the waiting room so we can move him in just a moment.
Yeah, let's hope so, because, I mean, of course, we see our perspective of the racing. We do not see their perspective, which must have been absolutely exhilarating all the way throughout. That was really good racing, especially the Ferraris and the Alpines that were really duking it out for the higher positions. It was great fun to watch, even though the strategy didn't quite go all of their ways.
No, definitely not, but that is something that we saw all the way through. We had the rain, definitely the Inters were the best place to start. Then we, of course, had the pit stop sequence, but I think the crossover point was at such an annoying point because you needed to take a pit stop. It wasn't yet time to go for the hards, even though I believe it was Langrock who did go for that. He ended up in the points, even though he was 1 lap early. The drivers that stopped a lap after him that went for the hards made the right call. It was also Beisner who went for the mediums, which worked out the end too for him, but that really was the crossover point. Some drivers sadly got it too early, didn't make for too many points. Only Oliver Knott, who still managed to pick up 2, but it was quite a tough one for them in the end. But yeah, there was one man really not to be touched. He already had 8 points beforehand. He will now move on to 25 points, which means he will be, I think, 5 points down on... No, that's not fully correct. Kuntz is going to pick up 12 points, so he will be 4 points down, yeah, on the new championship leader. So that's a great race from Tope.
A really good race indeed, and well, I personally have my reservations about him being an F3 this year. I thought he was going to roll it out this year and be right up ahead, but I mean, he had a slow start, but now he's really into his stride. This could be concerning for the rest of the grid.
It could very well be. And yeah, another driver that has made amends for his first race that didn't go too well in Silverstone, Cloud, where he was caught in the mayhem, I believe. Last week he was third. This week, again, third, picking up some good points. Kunz, after his off week last week in China, back on the podium, had a race win, now second place to his name as well. And Beisner, not the full result coming through tonight, but I think after a poor qualifying, a great race after all, Joseph.
Yeah, a great race indeed. And we'll get the opportunity to speak to Cloud. I'll give you the honours for this one.
All right, let's move over to our interviews. So here we have him then, his second podium of the season, 2 third places in a row, managing to snatch it away in the final few corners. Here's Cloud.
Yo.
A simple yo, but much more than a yo that was. Let's first go to qualifying. That was quite a tough one, wasn't it, with the rain coming in the end?
Yeah, it was quite tough. It obviously didn't help that I only had the one run there, but yeah, it was unfortunate timing. But tried to just do my best to set that lap, and yeah, not ideal, obviously, considering I started like P8 or something. But you know, is what it is. Just gotta adapt to the situation.
That is indeed the case. Now you started in P8. We had a very wet start towards the race. Were quite some overtakes, a lot of action going out there on track until it turned dry. But that crossover point, I think it came at a very tricky point to decide whether you go for inters or you go for hards.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the tire wear and stuff like that. With the track getting drier and drier. It was very touch and go whether we would even make it to what we thought was the dry lap, which it wasn't this time because it just got really dry really fast, and yeah. But yeah, quite tough. Obviously it was quite unlucky for some people that pit right before the crossover period, but yeah, I mean, just tried our best to maximize and just try something, because at the end of the day we were P12 at one point, so there's nothing you can really do at that point, matching what other people are doing in front of you.
No, that's true, but you did get the strategy right. Then after some overtakes and great pace, you ended up on P4, but we didn't really see what happened, how you got so close to the guys in second and third, because you seem miles off.
Yeah, so there, I mean, to be honest, I'm just as surprised about it as well, having a 3.7 second gap get closed down like that. Yeah, I think I was just very pretty good on my ERS. There were the I don't know who I passed before reaching the top three or bottom of the top 3. But I don't remember who he was. But ERS wise, I think I was managing very good, and that's what allowed me to catch up in the manner I did. I think along with that though, I definitely got a little bit lucky with the two deciding for some reason to just slow down a lot. They lost about a second entering the last corner on lap 21, I believe. So yeah, or not a second, like 5/10, which is what gave me the boost. So yeah, got a little bit of luck. I feel like a little bit of good planning in preparation for this race. So yeah.
Yeah, and of course, in that last lap, you were soon all in for that fight, and into the bus stop chicane, you managed to get the move done on Lau and Slaus as well. We did see some bodywork flying. I think you lost the front wing end plate in that bus stop chicane. How did that move go in the bus stop?
I mean, I thought it was fun. Obviously, it was quite risky considering it was too wide already, but I was given space, so I took it. Nothing much to be said about that, to be honest. Just sent it. Fully fair in my opinion. Nearly front tire to front tire, so yeah, risky move, but we take it.
We take it indeed, and with that, indeed, your second podium of the season, so congratulations on that. But before we round off the interview, let's give over the word to my fellow commentator in the name of Joseph. Do you have any questions for Cloud?
What are you going to be up to in the break week?
Probably preparing for the next race, to be honest. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Well, congratulations today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before we tune out, just one final question for you, because after the break week, we're going to have the first ever race in Madrid. Have you driven on the track? And if so, what are your first thoughts about the Madrid?
I have, and it's gonna be an interesting race. It's either gonna be very, it's either gonna be no overtakes or overtakes caused by people like making a lot of mistakes. I think because there's not many places to overtake cleanly per se, but there are a lot of places to make mistakes. So I think that's where we're gonna see it. It's just gonna be who drives the cleanest for sure. I think there's gonna be a lot of capitalization to be had at that race. So it'll be an interesting one to say the least.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the comms box, and hopefully we will see you again later on this season.
All right, see ya. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we have also come to the end of this stream here tonight. It was quite the hectic one. I think the rain definitely made everything a little bit more spicier than it otherwise would have been, Joseph.
Oh, it absolutely was. It was ridiculous. Race in the end. That's exactly what we were hoping to see. Of course, last year's game was a bit tricky in terms of watching the action out on circuit. However, now the action out on circuit, it just seems to be, there seems to be more out there, and in the wet it spices things up usually. So it just gave us a real good opportunity to see what in particular this game can offer us.
Yeah, I think so as well. The driving has definitely gotten a little bit more interesting. We saw Oliver Nutt also mentioning that there was a lot going on and he wasn't too happy with the standard. So let's see how many reports do come through and what what the stewards are going to say about that in relation to the race results. But that, of course, is something that we'll hear about in 2 weeks. We're going to have a little bit of a break week. Anything in particular you are going to do, Joseph?
Well, it'll be interesting indeed to prepare for the rest of the season, obviously, because it's not one that crept up on us. We suddenly started in Britain and China and Belgium. It feels as though we've rapidly banged those out. So a good little bit of rest up. I know we've only done 3 rounds, but it can be tricky to get yourself back in the rhythm of it.
It will be. So, with that, next week we have our break week. Then it will be off to Madrid for the first ever race there. We're going to take everything to a close, but make sure to go out there to the other tiers because currently F4 and F2 have just started their race, I believe. So make sure to tune in with them and see who takes the race win there. Here it was top 8 for F3 taking a dominating victory and moving himself within 4 points of new championship leader Rafael Kunz. But how that all is going to progress, we'll see in 2 weeks in Madrid. That's it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and see you then. Good night.